Marked by the United Nations each year on the 27th of January, International Holocaust Remembrance Day provides an opportunity to recount the atrocities of the Holocaust that resulted in the death of an estimated 6 million Jews. The day marks the anniversary of the liberation of the Nazi German concentration and extermination camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau in January 1945. The aphorism for Holocaust remembrance remains unchanged: never again. A turning point in history, the Holocaust is one of the most visible acts of violence and discrimination and affected all walks of life in Europe, including sports. Here are a few stories of athletes whose lives were either lost to or altered by the Holocaust and World War II. Cousins Gustaf and Alfred Flatt represented Germany at 2 Olympic Games and won 6 medals between them. Both Gustaf and Alfred were murdered in the Terezin ghetto. In the 1896 Summer Olympics in Athens, Alfred won 3 gold medals and a silver at the first modern Olympiad. He won the parallel bars, was the runner-up in the horizontal bar, and was a member of the German team that took gold in both the parallel bars and the horizontal bar team events. Gustaf Flatt won 2 gold medals as part of the gymnastics team on parallel bars and horizontal bar. Both also participated in other events. With the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany in 1933, Gustaf fled to the Netherlands. Alfred, who was active in gymnastics organizations and was a member of the German Olympic Committee too, remained in Germany. In 1936, Alfred was removed from the Olympic Committee on account of being Jewish. In 1938, as Nazi persecution gained momentum, Alfred also moved to the Netherlands. Soon enough, in 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands. In 1942, Alfred was captured and sent to the Terezin ghetto, also called Theresienstadt. Gustaf met with the same fate in 1943. Both passed away due to starvation, aged 73 and 70 respectively. Henoch was a Jewish athlete from Germany who set world records in the discus, shot put and 4x100 meter categories between 1922 and 1926. She joined the Berlin Sports Club shortly after World War I and soon became one of its best athletes. In the 1920s, she was the captain of the women's handball team. In addition to that, she was also a member of the club's hockey team, which won the Berlin Championship in 1925. In shot put and discus, she was not only the best performer in Germany, but was among the best in the world. In 1924, she also became the German long jump champion, and in 1926, she and her teammates achieved a world record in the 4x100 meter relay race. Women's events were only added to the Olympic athletes program in 1928, and Henoch never got the chance to showcase her talent at the biggest stage. But she was a 10-time German champion in various events. Her story had a very tragic end in 1942 when the German government deported her along with her brother and 66-year-old mother to the Riga ghetto in Latvia. She was shot dead in a mass execution by an Einsatzgruppe, a killing unit of the German army, in September 1942. Emmanuel Laski was the second world champion in the history of the game. Laski's reign spanned over 27 years from 1894 to 1921, thereby making him the person who held the official chess crown longer than anyone else in history. In 1933, Hitler started his campaign of discrimination and intimidation of the Jews, depriving them of property and citizenship. This is when Laski and his wife Martha, who were both Jewish, were forced to leave Germany. After a short stay in England, in 1935 they were invited to live in the USSR. Laski then renounced his German citizenship and received Soviet citizenship. He took permanent residence in Moscow and was given a post at Moscow's Institute for Mathematics and a post of training the USSR national team. He immigrated to the United States in 1937, where he lived until his death. What's really interesting about Laski's career is that despite playing before the use of statistical rankings, modern analysis regularly places him in the top 10 players of all time. And it's not because his legacy is just of a chess giant or a world champion, but he was a chess theoretician. Laski's approach to chess was very analytical, mathematical, and philosophical. He often employed psychological strategies to get ahead and figure out the game and leave his opponents utterly befuddled. Aside from his legendary accomplishments on the board, he was also a mathematician, philosopher, and playwright. Albert Einstein was a very good friend of Laski's and wrote the introduction to his biography. Paul Ladani is an Israeli race walker who survived two horrifying events in the world's history: the Holocaust and the attack on the Israeli Olympic team in the 1972 Munich Games. The two-time Olympian holds the world record in the 50-mile walk and the Israeli national record in the 50-kilometer walk. He is a former world champion in the 100-kilometer walk as well. Ladani survived the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in 1944 when he was just 8 years old. In interviews over the years, he has spoken about being taken to the gas chambers and somehow managing to escape death, calling himself lucky to be so consistently lucky. Ladani began his competitive career as a marathon runner in Israel when he was just 18 years old. In 1963, he won the first of his 28 Israeli national titles. That marked the beginning of decades dedicated to race walking, which saw him compete in the 1968 and 1972 Games among a host of other marquee events around the world. Ladani, now 85, is one of the few surviving athletes who experienced those horrors of the Holocaust firsthand, and his love for the sport endures. So much so that he marked his 83rd birthday in 2019 by completing an 83-kilometer walk. He was inducted to the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in 2011 and was also honored with the Pierre de Coubertin Medal for outstanding services to the Olympic movement in 2007. Agnes Kelletti is a Holocaust survivor and winner of 10 Olympic medals in gymnastics, including 5 gold medals. She celebrated her 101st birthday earlier this month, punctuating a life of achievement, adventure, tragedy, and perseverance. Kelletti, who was born Agnes Klein in 1921, had her illustrious career interrupted by World War II and the subsequent cancellation of the 1940 and 44 Olympics. Forced off her gymnastics team in 1941 because of her Jewish ancestry, Kelletti went into hiding in the Hungarian countryside, where she survived the Holocaust by assuming a false identity and working as a maid. Her mother and sister survived the war with the help of a famed Swedish diplomat, but her father and other relatives perished at Auschwitz. Resuming her career after the war, Kelletti was set to compete at the 1948 London Olympics, but a last-minute ankle injury dashed her hopes. 4 years later, she made her Olympic debut at the 1952 Helsinki Games at the age of 31, winning a gold medal in the floor exercise as well as a silver and 2 bronzes. With 6 medals, she was the most successful athlete at the 1956 Melbourne Olympics and is recognized as one of the most successful Jewish Olympic athletes of all time. Kelletti remained in Australia and sought political asylum there. She then immigrated to Israel the following year and worked as a trainer and coached the Israeli Olympic gymnastics team until the 1990s. The still vivacious Kelletti said that she most values her health and the simple fact that she has lived. This by no means is an exhaustive list. Ben Helfgott, Gertrude Klenova, Eddie Hamel, Oscar Gerder are a few other names in a very long list of sportspersons who endured or perished in the Holocaust. 49 Olympians were known to have died or been killed during the Holocaust. In total, 70 to 85 million people perished in World War II, and approximately 6 million, like we said before, were killed in the Holocaust itself, which is about 2/3 of the Jewish population in Europe at the time. Several resources exist where you can go and check out the histories and legacies of these people, be it from government sources or from the network of museums that exist in Germany, Poland, and other parts of Europe, or even in private endeavors like the 49 Flames project, which Chelsea Football Club set into motion to take a stand against anti-Semitism, or even Twitter handles like a handle that goes by the name Auschwitz Memorial, which seeks to document and safeguard the legacies of survivors and those who perished in a camp as infamous as Auschwitz for generations to get to know about them. We hope that these stories endure and are a reminder of dark times that we have crossed, and also serve as a reminder for us to do better and never return to similar circumstances.